I just made the worst epoxy covered table that I've ever made in my life, and I'm still gonna show it to you, because it's good for you to know that you can fail, and that's fine. And you think, well, I've spent so much money on this, I spent like $40 on this. You have spent more money on things that turned out worse. So you might as well just deal with the fact that you should do things and experience things, and if you lose money in the end, big deal. Now in the beginning it went really, really nicely. I was cutting out my metal pieces to use as my base and legs. And then I was able to weld those together pretty nicely. I did tack it in 3 locations just so that we could, make sure it didn't warp so much. I welded the legs in place. I did use a square, so I made sure that they were kind of level. Now, all my legs were different lengths on the table, and all I did was just weld them in there, and then at the end I measured each one individually so that they'd all be the same length, and I ground them down to exactly the same height. This is called a furring strip. I don't know what that means, but it has a nice rounded edge, and I'm going to cut these to length. It's probably smarter for me to burn the wood first and then glue it together, because if I go using a bunch of heat, probably gonna melt the glue, not gonna lie. So let's get burning. We're using a propane torch here. I could use my flamethrower, but that's kind of excessive, and this is a small piece, and we have a bunch of them to do, so I don't need to be doing anything dramatic. And of course, give it a quick sanding. And now that all my pieces are burned, we're gonna glue it together. I'm just using wood glue, and we're gonna let this dry overnight. Now that the wood glue has dried, I'm gonna put this big old slab into my table. It fits like a dream. And with the test fit out of the way, I can put my liquid nails down. This is a terrible idea I found out in the future. I'm laying it on pretty heavy because I wanted to seal as much cracks as I could. In the end, it didn't matter, but that's fine, whatever. Now, I let this combination dry for 2 whole business days, and the liquid nails was great. It looked fine. I kind of colored in the little specks that you could see with marker or black paint, and it was time to pour the resin. But little did I know that was gonna go terribly. So here's where I went wrong. First off, my epoxy is like 4 or 5 years old. Big red flag. You're supposed to use it within 6 months to a year. Second, apparently the liquid nails that I bought is no longer compatible with epoxy resin because it melted and my tabletop began to fall out of the metal frame that I had built. Now, I could leave it like this, but I'm going to pour resin over the top, so let's get on that. So I started out by mixing equal parts of the epoxy resin, which was, again, 4 years old. And then I just poured it on the table, and that's where everything went wrong. I found out I had a lot more cracks than I thought I did, or rather, it ate through the liquid nails that I had in the cracks.
Oh yeah, you can see it.
And then the liquid nails started failing all around the table, and the tabletop started falling out of the metal frame. Now, all I did was put some clamps on it to kind of hold it up there, and honestly, the epoxy resin will do a good enough job sealing it. Once the epoxy dried to kind of a tacky coat, I put another layer of epoxy on top of that, making sure that my table was kind of level so that it didn't spew off the sides or anything like that. And then all I had to do was wait probably 48 to 72 hours, and my table was ready to use. So as you can see, not perfect, but that's okay because I'm covering it with a fridge, so no skin off my back. So hopefully you enjoyed this video of me failing. I know that a lot of people think it's not okay to fail, but it really is, and you need to kind of get used to that. I'm okay with the fact that I failed. This thing's going to be covered up. in the long run, you really need to consider such things and quit being so hard on yourself. I mean, let's be honest. You've spent more money on bigger failures. So just get out there and do things, and then you'll learn. And then you'll be better than you ever were because you were not afraid to try. So anyway, like I said, hope you enjoyed the video. As usual, you be good while I'm gone, and I will see you next time. Have a good week.